sat here December 18th, I guess, and we were talking about 18 guys that we're really proud of. And to be able to add 6 more names to that list, 2 of which signed today, 4 that are actually already on our campus, is a great addition to our football team. Gives us a lot of excitement and optimism heading into spring practice. Just got to go through some of the names that we didn't get a chance to speak on the last time we were here. Jose Borregales, massive addition to our football team. Obviously, was aware of our place-taking struggles a year ago and how that impacted into our win and loss record. We know that he's very talented. We had a great relationship with that family. And we're very excited the fact that he's already here and enrolling classes and going through workouts. The other young man in high school that signed today is Isaiah Dunson, cornerback who was, for a while, that was committed to Florida State. Mike Rump did a great job in terms of helping with Marcus Van Dyke and recruiting him. Great length at corner, great ball skills, comes from an outstanding family. We think he's going to be a great addition to our secondary this year. Obviously, the quarterback, Derek King. What he did 2 years ago at Houston has not been done very often in college football history. And the fact that, again, Lashlee, I think when he got here, did a great job of when Derek went into the portal, convincing him of our vision of what we want to be offensively here, getting him excited in terms of the playmakers we have around him, and obviously the need that we have at quarterback to have a stable guy, not just on the field, but also off the field, that can really make this thing go. His name in the portal, obviously we did have some ties, a couple of guys on our staff who had worked at Temple with some time and had worked with Quincy. Quincy knew what he would be getting into from a culture standpoint here, which he was very excited about, but also the ability to play with the guys we have up front and to be able to make the plays that he thinks he'll make through was a great benefit to him. We think a great benefit to our defense. A guy that was that's already on our campus that's already watching go through workouts. We're very excited is Keyshawn Smith. Keyshawn is a wide receiver from Lincoln High School in San Diego. Very fast, dynamic football player, catching the ball down the field or on running catch possibilities. A young man who was signed, sealed, delivered to go to Washington State. When they had a coaching change at Washington State, he was released from his NLI. After he was released from his NLI, we sort of got involved with all that. It all happened very quickly, and we're very excited to bring Keyshawn here. So those 6 names, again, a lot of the credit goes to our coaching staff, our recruiting staff, led up with Andy Vaughn, David Cooney, DeMarcus Van Dyke, Edwin Pata, Brooke Wilson. They've done an outstanding job of really seeing this class home. We talk about all the time, fix your issues, right? Fix your issues. And even going back a year ago, we felt like one of the major issues we had to fix in our program to get our program back to where we wanted to was through recruiting. I think 12 months later, we see the end product of that. We also talk about trying to improve our issues in terms of our culture, starting in the locker room, starting in the weight room. I think those things have happened, and I think that's why you are attracting good people. Good people want to come for good reasons, and I think those reasons are real. They exist on our campus, and again, all of that coming full circle today with Avantae signing with us. And again, amazing job by Efren Bonda on that, Blake Baker, our defensive staff. Things are moving in the right direction. We're very excited to continue to work with our guys through off-season programs. So with that, open up for questions.
Please raise your hand and wait for a microphone.
Coach, you mentioned the culture a couple times, and improving the culture. From your point of view, what needed improving upon from the culture that was here?
From 12 months ago?
Yes.
Your culture in college football is set in your weight room. And that when I talk about culture, in terms of how guys work, the way they attack everything, the way they come to the building. And those things we feel like were put in place in the last 12 months. Now, that doesn't mean that everybody in an organization buys into that culture. And that doesn't mean that everyone in your organization fits into your culture. And that's probably one of the great lessons that I've learned is that you want desperately for everyone to buy, and you want desperately for everyone to believe in the culture and believe in what you're doing. But the reality is it's not for everybody. The great thing about the sport is you have the opportunity to recruit to your culture. And so when the guys come on campus, they get hosted by our players who did an amazing job of hosting. When you talk about the transfer, you talk about the kids coming out of high school, they see what's going on here. They see what's real. And they want to be a part of that. People were drawn to the way our guys are. when you talk about the level of transfers, let's use those guys for an example. I mean, they could have gone about anywhere they wanted to go. And they had to know that the guys in our locker room were serious about winning, you know, and they were serious about getting this thing turned around. So I don't think you can fake that. You know, a coach, we can sell that, but the players, there has to be something real there that other players will pick up on and they'll want to join.
Okay, man, can you take us through the process of Avantae? If it was a pins and needles moment, or if you guys had an idea, and just what sort of, do you feel like kind of it's an exclamation point on what you've been able to pull off the last 5 weeks?
It's a massive exclamation point. There's no doubt, because Avantae, you know, I think we've known Avantae since the summer coming out of 8th grade. I believe that's right. Yeah, the summer coming out of 8th grade. I mean, this is a 4-year relationship. Again, with Coach Bond, who's been the point man on that for 4 years. You know, he was committed at one point, you know, too early to be committed in reality, and went all kinds of different ways. And he's one of those guys, just, you know, we you know, and again, I got to give all the credit to Coach Bond. We never gave up on him, but it just felt like there was just a feeling that Avantae was a cane at heart. In recruiting, you just get to know these guys. There's just something about them that they just fit in here, you know, and just there's a feeling. And we talked a lot about that when he came on his visit a couple weeks ago. And in terms of when we knew, it was when the proverbial facts came in. I mean, it was. I mean, he's such an explosive guy, you know what I mean, and a guy that can help our defense out a lot of different places on the field. And so, yeah, that was a big finish to the recruiting cycle.
Manny, two things. What ultimately led you to conclude that going to an up-tempo spread was the right thing for the program? Was it something you had thought about throughout last season? Was it something that you just came to that conclusion in late December? And then offensive line-wise, do you feel that the issues you had last year can be solved with simply the 2 freshmen, Rivers, Washington, Cleveland Reed coming back, and the guys who you already have, or do you think a grad transfer is needed?
Okay, so we'll start with the second question first. We still have one slot left, and that could certainly feature for offensive line, but you're not going to take a guy to take a guy. You have to take a guy that improved your football team, right? And everyone knows that those linemen are in short supply, but we'll certainly, like everyone else in America, we'll have our ears open and eyes open to see what's available out there. We suspect our guys will play better. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I think everybody's very excited about Garen Justice joining our program to coach that unit. Comes with a great reputation. Sometimes the guys will be better because we return all 5, and experience is important at that position. You know, there's not a lot of people that play a whole season with 2 true freshmen on their offensive line. But there is no doubt that the up-tempo offense in college football, one of the great things it does is helps out your offensive line play, because it tires out the defensive line. The hardest thing to do in college football is to rush the passer. And all of a sudden, once the amount of time between plays starts to speed up, those guys' level of play on defense starts to drop. That's why it's so important for us defensively to have depth on our defensive front, right? That's why a guy like Quincy Roche is so vital to our efforts, because people try to wear you down up front and to try to take the edge off your pass rush. So all those things, to me, we think will help the performance of our offensive line. And then in terms of the idea to go tempo, I think if you sort of step back a little bit and you look where things are going in college football, and you look at where the game is going, not a lot of people winning without it. There's not a lot of people scoring a lot of points without it, and we felt like that was the best way to improve our whole team going forward.
Manny, can you take us through the process of getting Ed Reed into the building, and also what his duties will be in this new chief of staff role? I know there were like 8 or 9 things listed in that release as far as what he'll have a hand in, but just kind of what are his expectations in this new role?
Yeah, very excited about adding Ed. There's so many new exciting things to talk about. Gosh, the process of getting Ed in here is probably, I've lost track of days, it's probably about a 3-week process. I got to give a lot of credit to Blake James and Jen Strawley for, number one, giving us the ability to go get a guy like Ed and do what it takes to be able to get that deal done. Our chief of staff position is a position that was on our staff a year ago. that went unfilled when Todd Stroud replaced Jeff Simpson as our defensive line coach. So this had been a role when I first became head coach that I felt like was very important to the success of our programs. We just didn't feel like there was the right guy showed up last spring to take that job as we went into the season. So we knew actively that we'd be wanting to replace that role as we got into 2020. That is a job to me that number one is going to serve as a sounding board, as an advisor to me, another set of eyes, somebody who sometimes can see things that I can't see at practice, see things I can't see at a workout, and can kind of come up to me and say, hey, you may want to look at the way, I'm not looking at the body language of this guy, or may have something to say about an interaction between a player and a player, an interaction between a player and a coach. Might be a guy that can go into the locker room after practice and put his arm around a player and just kind of talk about, hey, what's going on in your life? What's going on? Serve as a mentor for our player because you're not in that direct role of being on the coaching staff. And then certainly in terms of whether it's behind the scenes, in the meeting rooms, can help evaluate in terms of everything we're doing, and again, just be whether it's a supporting opinion, opinion just as playing the devil's advocate, just to make sure that we're making the right decision in everything that we do. When you talk about a guy like Ed Reed, what makes him, there's so many things that make him unique and special that go way beyond what he did as a football player. His football resume would stand up on his own, but that's really not even beginning to tell the story for me of who Ed Reed is. And when you just get to speak with him, his ability to understand team dynamics, understand team chemistry, team culture, we use the culture word all the time around here, is elite. It's second to none. He really has a great knack of understanding where others stand in the locker room, and the fact that great football teams are all connected to one another. Players all feel that connection to one another, and any breakdown in that connection somehow breaks down the trust, the bond that all great teams have to have. So his ability to be able to see that, to understand locker room dynamics, who wouldn't benefit from having that in your football program? So, in addition to again all of his, what he knows about the game and a great a great mentor for our players, a guy that when recruits come on campus, he's allowed to meet with recruits when they come on campus. He ticks 10 out of 10 to me in every box.
Hey, Randy, you made a lot of big decisions here in the last 40 days or so. What did you see that said, I gotta change things, I gotta make some drastic changes here?
Well, we've talked about it a lot of times. Obviously, I'm a numbers guy, analytics. There were some things that were broken on our football team that were rather obvious, but you play the season out and you look at where we have to improve our football team. That's my job. My job is to be able to identify, and the job of any leader in any organization is to be able to identify your issues, find the solutions, secure the solutions, and follow through with that. So to me, it was about fixing our issues. And we feel like we've addressed our issues. I'm not going to stand here and say our issues are fixed. We have a lot of, right now the work begins. We brought in the right people into our organization. If we're really good about the people we have here, and now we have to get to work. But I think that's where it comes from. I think you have to look at the data of what we've done. The data we did a year ago. I went back 10 years to look at the data of what we've done. Offense, defense, special teams, recruiting rankings. To try to get an idea of really where we stand and where we've come from in terms of where we're going. What internally, what should be our expectation for performance, and where were we falling short. So in all those ways, you have a chance to. Now, I'll say this: you can identify your issues. The part of that I'm most happy about is we're solving the people that we solve them with, right? The quality of the people that we brought in, whether we're talking about the staff or we're talking about these 6 young men that we're talking about here today, is what has me the most excited.
You mentioned earlier about the culture and how this is maybe not for everybody. We've obviously seen some guys leave here, players. Internally, from just a big discipline standpoint, guys breaking rules, team rules, etc. Is that changing as well? Are you stiffening up some of those rules as far as like what you've learned out this first year?
We are structure in terms of how our rules are laid out, have been in place, will be in place, they've been the same. Our rules that have been broken have been, the discipline has been there, they've been disciplined for those types of things. But what you're doing is you're finding sometimes you've got the repeat offenders who just, this isn't the place for them, and they gotta find another place to go, and that's all part of it, Look, it's easy when a young man makes a mistake to try to just say, okay, hey, you're out here, that you wanna help them because they are young, they have a chance to learn, and you have to ask yourself at all times, are their mistakes coming from immaturity? Or do they really struggle understanding right from wrong? And ultimately it comes down to two choices. Every decision I make is a selfish choice for me, or it's a choice for the team. And if I continue to put myself in front of the team, then ultimately those are guys that will get you beat. It's that simple. And so what we're trying to do is find more guys that make less selfish decisions, and think about team, whether they're in this building, whether they're in Hard Rock Stadium, or they're away from us, the time that we don't have them.
Manny, I know you don't get to work with the guys too much right now, but I was wondering if you could go in a little more on the first impression Derek King's made on you, maybe from what you see, the first impression he made on the players too.
Well, very impressive, even just getting known in the short sort of recruiting window that we had, the way he thinks, just being able to talk to him and his recall, he can almost list every quarterback to come out of high school in the state of Texas that were 3 years older than him, 3 years younger than him, just a guy that's aware of the game and aware of what's around him, which means he's a student of the game. We had our first off-season workout yesterday, and it was impressive watching him go. Again, there's not a football present, but there's a lot of effort present, and you can see the athleticism and watching him move and watching him strain, watching him compete, watching him win sprints, things like that, was a sight to see. It's guys, as we know and as we've said multiple times, you can have something special when your quarterback is your leader and your hardest worker on offense, and that was one reason. Everyone can Google his highlights on YouTube and see what he can do with the spectacular plays, but the stuff that really gets the coaches excited is what he does when no one's cheering for him, when no one's watching him.
Thanks. Hey, Manny, just playing off what Manny Navarro said regarding Derek King and Jaron Williams before. I know there were obvious issues with the previous quarterback situation. Jaron missed the practice, reports of busted curfews. How will Derek, do you think, be a step up off the field discipline-wise, not just in the weight room, over the last quarterback regime, maturity-wise?
Well, I think that's part of the homework you do in the recruiting cycle, right? You're trying to find out everything you can about any of the other players that you bring into your program, in terms of what are your habits. And one of the things we talked to Derek about, and I'll say this, our quarterback room over the last years has suffered because of not having a player-to-player mentorship, I want Derek King to not just make us better by the way he plays quarterback this year. I want him to make the quarterbacks on our roster better by training them on how to be in a meeting, how to practice, how to watch film on your own, how to get the guys to go throw routes when coaches aren't allowed to go, so that he doesn't just improve our football team in 2020, he improves it beyond, right? Because if I'm Kyle Van Dyke, we still think the role of, and I just showed up, and I don't know how to be a college quarterback. I know how to play quarterback, I know how to throw a pass, but what do I do? How do I get a wideout that's 3 classes older than me to come on his free time and come catch balls from me? You know what I mean? And that to me is we've been waiting for in the quarterback room. We finally have that older guy, an experienced guy, right, that can not just lead our offensive ball team, but really change the culture and the dynamic of that room.
Do you think Jaron was just too young for the recruiters to know that?
It's hard to say. You know what I mean? And I'd rather talk about the guys that are on our football team right now.
Okay.
Hey Manny, how important is in-state recruiting to your program? And can you talk about kind of building that wall around Florida, keeping in-state guys here, specifically South Florida guys in your own backyard?
Well, it's where every recruiting meeting we have begins. Every recruiting meeting we have begins with Dade County, to Broward County, to Palm Beach County. That is our state, right? Then you take it north to I-4 corridor south. We have other parts of the state, like Duval County has been great for us. We've got great players out of the Panhandle. ideally, if we had it our way, we never got an airplane to recruit. That's just not always the way it's gonna work out though, right? You've gotta go where the guys are, and all the great Miami teams historically have always been supplemented with some really, really strong out-of-state players, so that's always been part of what we do. We wish we could keep every player home, there's just simply too many of them. I know the better we play on the field, the better product we show, the more the players that they will want to stay home, but we feel really good about the guys from this area, from the state, that did choose Miami. We're already into the next cycle, you know, in terms of some of the guys that are, you know, from this area that we're sort of going after very hard. But, you know, ultimately, the best recruiting we can do is on Saturday afternoons in the fall, and to get our team to play very well.
So a couple more questions for Coach Diaz.
You alluded to how quickly the Keyshawn Smith thing kind of came together. I was wondering if you could just kind of take us through the process of finding him, and I know, you know, he committed before ever coming to campus for a visit or anything like that, and what kind of made you feel like he was going to be a fit here?
Yeah, that was very unusual, you know, that's not a story you hear of all the time, kind of very unusual. I know Stephen Field, you know, did a great job of kind of identifying Keyshawn, and when he got released and became available, where we were allowed to, you know, number one, find out if he had any interest, you know, we had looked at, with what we were doing offensively, the number we wanted to hit at wide receiver grew. We feel like we need a little more depth at wide receiver in our football team, because of the amount of snaps that we expect to play on offense. So we felt like we had to add a guy. This just sort of came about at the right time. When we found out he was available and make some contact, turns out that, you know, as a lot of people do, the U brand is very strong. And Keyshawn himself and his mom have kind of always sort of loved the U, always kind of followed the U. So it was one of those things that once that initial connection was made, and I think the first day I was allowed out in January, I flew to San Diego and got in the home, and, you know, and at least got a chance to talk about who we were and what we were about, and make the family feel really good about letting Keyshawn come be a Miami Hurricane.
Maybe just an update on some of the injured guys and their
Yeah.
availability for spring, particular with Bubba and Devon Donaldson, Jalen Phillips, and also have you set a date on spring ball starting?
Yeah, spring, our first spring practice will be February 29th. It was a Saturday. I'm gonna run a little list off of guys who will not participate that day, or potentially all of spring. Tyreek Austin Cave will miss spring with a shoulder. Bubba Bolden will be coming back from his ankle. We hope to get him back sometime for spring. Sam Brooks will be out for spring, recovering from his shoulder. Don Chaney, same thing, will miss spring due to his shoulder. Devon Donaldson will be out for spring, recovering from his knee. Corey Flagg will be out for spring, again, just due to his knee. Bradley Jennings coming back from his hip injury. Brevin Jordan coming back from his foot injury, and Michael Redding with a wrist injury. Now, all of those players we expect to have by the time our team comes together this summer, gets in training and can do player-led practices, things like that. We expect to have all those guys for sure when we start training camp.
Good follow-up.
Last one for Coach Diaz.
Yeah, and just touch on Bubba, you said you'd hope to have him back.
Yeah.
Maybe what are you hoping he'll be able to do in the spring?
No, he should be able to compete if you know, if everything goes according to his benchmarks. We feel like Bubba will have a chance to compete at some point during spring. But we can talk about that as we get closer to spring practice in terms of we'll probably get ahead of ourselves in terms of when and what and stuff like that.
Great. Thank you very much, Coach Diaz.
Outstanding. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You guys are going to transition into offensive coordinator Lashlee, and we'll go to chief of staff Evan.
Okay, so we got Red Lashlee next week. If you're watching, man, hit the like button for us. If you're watching, hit the like button. The officer coordinator Red Lashlee coming up next.
Hey guys, please will follow the same protocol. Coach Lashlee will start with an opening statement, and please wait for a microphone. Hold on to the microphone if you have any follow-up questions, please. But Coach, you're supposed to say this.
Hey, I'm gonna be short and sweet on that, just excited to be here. Really excited over the last 2 or 3 weeks, you know, a lot's been going on, trying to finish out recruiting, get a quarterback here, as y'all know. Really excited to be off the road recruiting, get a chance to get to know our staff more, get to know our players most importantly. Now for us, the real job begins, because most of the guys are going to be on our roster here, and so this spring is important for us. Obviously, from an X and O standpoint, but just developing relationships with our players, getting to know them getting to know us. I've never seen an offense be very good that's not closing together. So just excited to kind of dive into getting to know our guys. The first 3 weeks I've spent here have been mostly away from here, and so trying to get settled here and settle in with our guys and get ready to go to work, because there's a lot of work to be done. But fire away.
Hey, Coach, Tim Brown to the Associated Press. Welcome.
Hey, thank you.
When the deal got done, when you came here, a lot of things that have happened, and subsequently hadn't happened yet, there's been change of quarterback, there's a lot of good things that happened in these 3 weeks. When you did come aboard, there were a lot of questions going on. What
Yes.
spoke to you that this was the right move for you and your family right now?
Yeah, a couple things. I will say I was in a really good situation with, I will say Sonny Dykes is someone I have a lot of respect for. We're really good friends, and had a really good quarterback in there. But just when you look at it's the University of Miami, first of all. I'm not known to the tradition and the history and what's been done here and what can be done here. So I think that starts. I think Coach Diaz is a big reason that I was very interested, because we went against each other back in the day in the SEC a lot when we were both coordinators. He was always probably the toughest guy we would face, and so as coordinators you develop a lot of respect for who you go against, and obviously his defensive background speaks for itself, and obviously how we've been successful here on defense. And so those two things probably stood out. And really, thirdly, just kind of looking through the situation, there's, I guess it's easy to always get caught up in negatives or what things aren't there. I'm just not one of those guys. I kind of see what can be and what is there, and say, hey, this is what's there. This is what can be done with what's there. And try not to focus on the issues. Now, you got to resolve issues. You can't be naive to it, but we'll focus on, okay, here's what we do have. So here's what we can be really good with. And if we do improve some of those maybe deficiencies, what really could be done. And so just thinking probably a combination of it being the University of Miami, being Coach Diaz, and seeing what a great opportunity there was here, just, is what I kind of kept coming back to.
Hi, Red. From the time you've had to study tape of Miami players in between 2021 recruiting the last few months, how good is the talent at receiver, running back, tight end? And if you wouldn't mind talking about some of the players who caught your eye and their skill sets among the returning guys.
I'll be real careful to name names just because it's so early, and honestly, sometimes that sets unfair expectations for kids. But I'll say this, I've been in some situations before where, maybe coming in from an offensive standpoint, we've kind of got to turn things around in some, at least perception, statistical areas. And in those scenarios, I think back to when I had been at Auburn in 2009-10, when we came back in 2013. The year before, they had gone 3-9, 0-8, worst year in school history. And there wasn't one player on that offense that anybody wanted. Same thing, a couple years I went to UConn, and then even last year at SMU, we were trying to make improvements. And the things I've always done is the past is the past. You've got to be aware of some things, but really like I've told our players day one, all I really care about is what we're doing going forward. So I have not and will not watch one single game from last year, like in terms of a game. Now, what I have done is we've had some GAs and quality control coaches that go cut up specific plays of players. So I can get to know, hey, here's 10 or 15 plays of Zion. Here's 10 or 15 plays of Pope, or this guy or that guy. And I can see kind of what their skill set is, what I think they can do, until we get on the field with them. And so from doing that, what I have seen is, I think we got some pieces in place we can work with. There's a lot of work to be done, but I think everywhere from O-line and tight end and running back and receiver, we've got some guys that I know are really excited about what we're going to be doing. I know they're really eager to kind of get to work on that, and it kind of had to wait for all this recruiting to subside. I think we addressed probably our most immediate need on offense was to go out and find an older, probably more seasoned quarterback to come into that room and hopefully help everyone in the room, like Coach Diaz said. And so just kind of looking through it, I think we've got guys up front that are young, a lot of guys that played that are young, but there's some length and some athleticism. I think Coach Justice and I both feel good about that, there's a lot of work to be done, but it can be done. We got some experience coming back at tight end. Got two older guys at running back who played a lot of ball, and we've got two really electric young players coming in. And then when you look at receiver, we got a lot of guys that haven't really done anything. but they've got some abilities. I think back to that Auburn team, we had a receiver named Sammy Coates who had single-digit catches in his career going into that season. He led the country in yards per catch that year. We had a left tackle, Greg Robinson, who was going to be a redshirt sophomore, and no one in the world thought he was going to the draft the next year. He was the second overall pick. I had a running back from not too far from here in Trey Mason who hadn't really done much. All I did was break Bo Jackson's rushing record that year. And so I think it's a matter of putting guys in position to try to be successful, and then hopefully develop their skills. Like Coach said, all 5 linemen are back. They've played a full year of football. And so hopefully a combination of experience now that they didn't have last year, and maybe us with what we do maybe fits them well, will help. And that's kind of the same way at every position.
Hey, Coach, you coach for a lot of offensive-minded coaches, Coach Mazal, so
Yeah.
what is it like to kind of be the offensive guy when you're a defensive coach like Manny is now? Was that a good opportunity for you to kind of read away?
That was not, the fact that Coach is a defensive coach was not the reason, because I have coached for more offensive-minded coaches than defensive-minded coaches. I did coach with Randy Edsel for 1 year, but like I said, with Sonny Dykes, he's an offensive-minded coach, but for 2 years, he really gave me, he really empowered me and gave me the ability to, myself and our offensive staff, run our offense. And so, like I said, it wasn't that I had a bad situation and was looking for something like that. I do know, like I said, Coach Diaz is really good, him and that defensive side of the ball and what they do. And so I did look at it as an opportunity to come in and hopefully work alongside those guys and team up with Coach, and let's just see if we can't try to get the offense on par to where the defense has been performing.
Hey, Coach Lashlee, my name is Paul, the athletic. Two things. One, Derek King, just the pursuit of him, how it sort of came about, if you can give us a story on that. And then also hiring Darren Justice, what you guys are doing with wide receiver coach, and maybe bringing on assistants who also have offensive coordinator experience, maybe how that might help you and help the entire offense.
Yeah. First and foremost with De'Aaron, I think I had a chance to go against him when I was at SMU, even 2 years ago when they were, I think, 7-1 when they came to our place. That was the year they had 50 touchdowns. He's an electric playmaker. And even after he decided he was coming here, getting to talk to someone even like Kendall Bross, who coached him, and just get his input on what he thought about him, just speaks volumes of who he is. Like Coach said, you turn on the tape and know he's made plays at this level and done it against really good teams. Oklahoma game 1 this year, he was doing some things, but it's who he is that's important. You got to have a leader at that position. You got to have a winner. He's got to do more than just throw the football or run the football. And so I think that's what drew me to him. That look, we needed to address, and it's not just the guys that are on the roster. They got every opportunity to improve too. We know we got to be more productive at that position. And so I think knowing that we were going to probably bring in an older guy, it's the first thing I told all the quarterbacks here when I got the job. Before I ever met him on the phone, I just said, hey, I'm going to be up front with you because that's just how I roll. We're gonna go out and try to recruit a transfer quarterback. Doesn't mean we don't like you, doesn't mean you won't be competing. But I just think that's the right thing to do. So they knew that even before we started recruiting De'Aaron or anyone else or he came. But when he became available, it actually probably was good. It happened late in the process. And there was about a week left to get him into school, and it just worked out that because he and I had gone against each other, he's from the state of Texas, he knew Shane Michelle, who was the quarterback I had at SMU. They had conversations. I just think that kind of helped us get the ball rolling to the point that we were able to get him on campus. And when he came, like Coach said, it's you use a brand that sells itself. Miami and Coral Gables is a great place. And I think when he was able to sit down and see some of those cut-ups of the guys that we do have coming back, whether they put up big numbers or whatever, but just see them on tape, see them in the weight room, hang out with them for 48 hours, he felt really good about the guys that would be around him and that he could help make them better and they could help him reach some goals as well. And with regards to staff, probably the best thing that stood out about Garen is his good looks. You can see him sitting up there right now. But after that, you normally don't look for a good-looking line coach, but we found one. The thing is very similar to Eric. Garen and I never worked together. Obviously, he's played in an up-tempo system. I believe Wright, second-team All-American coach. Am I getting that right? And, at West Virginia, when they were playing a lot of tempo, he's worked with some guys, again, Travis Stricker, Kendall Browse, guys that I know well, some guys I've worked with that just think the world of him. And like Coach said, his reputation kind of precedes him as a recruiter, as a coach, but also as just a developer of young men. And just as he and I got to start talking, I think we see things a lot of the same way in life, much less football. And I just, again, kind of how guys, your continuity on the staff is important. and I just think we'll work well together, and then the receiver situation should be resolved soon, and I think that's another good fit. And you brought up a good point too. Guys that have coordinated before, because until you've been in that seat, you look at things differently. And so guys that have been in that seat, now they are coaching the O-line, coaching the receivers, yeah, they definitely can give a different perspective that, look, I don't have all the answers. My belief is we do this thing together. And if there's 8 of us in that room, 8 are better than 1. That's just how I believe.
Coach, I'm Susan Miller, Deputy at the Miami Herald. How in particular are Nkosi Perry and Tate Martell's attitudes now? Do you sense that they might feel this is their last shot for substantial playing time?
You know, you'd have to ask them that last part of the question. So far, since I got here, like I said, I sat down with all those guys and I told them, hey, it's a fresh start. You got a clean slate with me. That's the great thing. Maybe I've heard this or heard that, but all I go off is what I know from this point moving forward with them, how they act, how they, show up for things, how they work, how they interact with me. And so far, they've been great. Their attitudes have been good. They're working hard. Look, they're both going to be juniors. So if they don't have some urgency, then, that's probably going to be tough on them. I mean, you're juniors, no matter what the situation is, you got a max of 2 years left. And so I think they're both excited from the system standpoint. I know it's more probably down the road of what they did in high school. And so I think they're excited to get their feet wet on what we're going to do and see if it fits them. Look, quarterback's a hard deal, right? Every other position, multiple guys can play. Quarterback, usually, if you're doing it hopeful the way you want to, one guy's playing. And so it's a really hard position to have that quarterback room. Everybody's got to be pulling for each other and still compete against each other at the same time. And that's a hard place to find. I've been fortunate everywhere I've ever been, we've had good quarterback rooms. That's, I think, very important, not just for our quarterbacks, for our whole team. I think those kids are no different. They get a fresh start, and I think they're excited for that.
A couple more questions for Coach Lashlee. Hey, Coach, David Frommers from the South Florida Sunset Sentinel. A lot of us can imagine and envision why De'Aaron King would be such a great fit for you in this team, but just to hear from you, why you felt he would be such a tremendous fit for what you're trying to do.
Yeah, well, I think there's a couple things. One, if you don't have a quarterback in college pro football, if you don't have consistent play at that position and consistent production, it's hard to win at a high level. And so, De'Aaron has a unique skill set. Honestly, completely different than the guy I had last year. But that's okay. I've been blessed to coach different style of guys, whether it's a Shane Bichelle like last year, or whether it's a Cam Newton, Nick Marshall type, they're all in between. And I think the thing is at quarterback, whoever wins that job, you want to build what you do around what they do best, if that makes sense, because everybody's a little different. From a system standpoint, look, we're going to know huddle, we want to be fast, we want to be physical, we want to make the defense defend the whole field, we want to try to put pressure and dictate to the defense more than them to us. There's all these things from a philosophical standpoint we're going to do and we believe in, regardless of who our quarterback is. But if you have a quarterback like De'Aaron, you may run more zone read or run the ball more at the quarterback position than, say, a kid who doesn't. And those are just things that as you learn your guys and as you see them fit, that you're going to build towards what they do. But at the end of the day, for De'Aaron, he played in similar style systems at Houston and in high school. I've worked with guys that have similar skill sets to him, so I knew he would fit from that standpoint. But there's nothing better than witnessing, and I witnessed when we would play Houston what a pain in the rear end he was to defend. So I'm excited that I get to have him on my side for a year.
Hey, Coach, so you just mentioned the different style of quarterbacks from last year to now with King. With that being said, is there a specific style of quarterback you're going to prioritize in recruiting?
The guy who puts it in the end zone the most. Look, I do look at it from a standpoint. That's a good question of I want a guy who's a winner. I want a guy who wants to be a leader. Kind of to the question that she asked up here a minute ago about the older guys. If you're a quarterback, you can't be scared of competition. That's part of it. As I said, only one guy can play. But I want a guy who's a winner. I want a guy who wants to lead, who makes the guys on the field around him better. Look, this is college football. We shouldn't recruit guys that can't throw. Okay, you're not recruiting guys in here and teaching them how to throw. In high school, you're kind of dealt what you have, and you've got to kind of go that way. The guy's got to be accurate enough to make the throws we want him to make on what we do and to play college quarterback. The quicker the guy gets the ball out, the better. If he throws a good deep ball, we like to throw it deep, that's good. And I always say the more athletic, the better. And I think that a lot of times athletic word gets misconstrued with a runner, and that's not the case. Obviously, more athletic guys sometimes are better runners. And look, if you can hurt the defense with your feet, that makes it that much harder on them to defend you because they can be right in a lot of areas and the quarterback can still make them wrong. I think everyone who watches college football in the NFL sees that. But I just mean athletic. I love a guy who's been a point guard of the basketball team, shortstop, and plays quarterback and all that because he's competed, he's got good hand-eye coordination, and again, he may only run a 4.8, but he's an athlete. And I think you got to be a really good athlete to play quarterback at a high level.
The last question for Coach Lashlee.
Hi, Rick. In football, obviously, there's always a lot of debate and talk about different schemes and philosophies. Why does up-tempo spread work for you? And with the athletes that you can recruit in this program, skill guys in South Florida, why is it the right fit?
That's a good question. I mean, look, there's a lot of different ways to score points and stop people, and that doesn't make any of them right or wrong. For me, it's just my background. I played for Gus Malzahn in high school and threw it 71 times in the game twice. You know, we know huddle like crazy and ran a lot of plays. You know, for me, when it really made sense to me when I played, we never had a guy run faster than a 4.6, but we would lead the country in total offense because we played fast, we spread the field, we wore people down, kind of leveled the playing field for us. And we just had guys that executed at a high level because I think that's one of the things you can stand up and say, we want to play fast. But if we don't execute, nobody's playing fast. You can go 3 and out real fast. You know, that's not what we want. And so I think that's kind of my background and just I've seen it work over the years. And so that's brought me to this point where I just think tempo is a great equalizer. You know, you heard Coach Diaz talk about how, look at the Super Bowl, look at the last 6 minutes of the game. The 49ers dominated that thing until they went up tempo, and then all of a sudden that pass rush wasn't quite as effective. Now, they had to get a few first downs to allow that to happen, but they did. So I just believe in that. That's just kind of what I've always done, and kind of what I've always been a part of. I think what fits here is if you talk about South Florida, you talk about the University of Miami, we do have access to really good speed and a lot of good athletes. So why would we not make a defense defend the whole field and tackle those guys in space? Because getting our guys in space allows their speed, you know, to be opened up and used to our advantage and let their DNA take over. And I think too in South Florida, a lot of the high schools, that's what they do. And so it's like everything else. You see how the NFL's progressing to more shotgun, more wide open kind of offenses like we're running in college because that's the kind of quarterbacks they're getting. It's the same thing for us. If we're going to go recruit the talent in South Florida to come play for us, it makes sense that we can transition a lot quicker if they're used to doing similar things to what we do and playing in space and playing at tempo. I think at the end of the day, it's fun. I mean, if you ask the kid, do you want to run 70 plays a game or 109, they're going to say 109 because more guys are going to touch the ball, you know. And, it's a team deal, but guys like touching the ball, and that's why they play offense. So I just think it's a good overall fit. You use that word, and I think that's a good point.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Coach Lashlee.
See y'all.
After Coach Lashlee, Officer Coordinator, I think we're getting Coach Ed Reed next. If you're watching, hit the like button for us, man. That last point he made was awesome.
Alrighty, guys, we'll follow the same protocol. We'll have an opening statement by Ed, and then we'll go right into questions. So please raise your hand, and Mr. Chief of Staff, Ed Reed, will go right in.
Good afternoon. How y'all doing? Man, what a journey. Glad to be back. You know, I'm excited for our university. Was excited for the opportunity that came from Manny and Blake. You know, and Jen got the phone call a few weeks ago that, you know, they were looking into filling a position to help the university get back where, you know, our standards are met here in Miami. You know, I know our standards are high, as we do as a coaching staff and as players. You know, it's just a matter of us working together as a team and doing the things that a team does. You know, like I said, I'm excited. You know, I'm not in the position. You know, I've been talking to a lot of people since the word has hit the news. You know, I'm not hiring, I'm not firing. You know, I'm just coming here to help. You know, as I did back in '97. I'm a piece of this puzzle, as all the coaches are, players are, and let's see how we fit.
Great. Please raise your hand for the microphone.
Ed, was watching the 6 and 7 year last year from afar, was that part of the reason why you wanted to come back?
No, I mean, I'm always always orange and green, man. You know, that's in my heart, it's in my blood. You know, once you become a part of this university, you know, you want to do anything and everything for it. You know, as I said, I received a lot of calls from a lot of players, ex-players, you know, who wants to be a part of this, you know, but they didn't understand that I'm not in that position to do the things that they want, you know, but, no, it had nothing to do with last season, though. You know, I know we didn't like what we saw, you know, and nobody accepted that. You know, Manny definitely didn't accept that, and that's something we talked about. You know, but that's last year. You know, that's last year. We went 5-6 my first season here. You know, and then we come back and we have a great year, and years later we win a national championship. So it's a process, man. We have a process going on. You know, and that's part of me trying to help figure out what's needed to get us on that track of fulfilling that standard that we have here.
And welcome home, first of all.
Thank you.
When you've done all that you've done, when you're in a couple halls of fame, got your ratings and all that, you're doing anything right now in life. This is not an honorary job. This is a real job, and you've got things to do. What made you say, I want to work again? What made you say, I'm willing to put in time when you don't have to be honest?
You know, I'm from a small town, Louisiana, you know, where kids don't have the structure to be successful in life. Yes, I've become a Hall of Famer on every level, college, high school, and pros. You know, so that has helped me to be a light and a role model for a lot of kids that follow in our footsteps. You know, I talked to Emmett Smith, Mel Blunt, Derrick Brooks about this, Reggie Wayne about this, you know, on how we need to set a great example for the youth, you know, and that's what we're here to do for our kids. You know, we have to set a great example for them. You know, if we're not together as coaches, as a staff, supporting each other, encouraging each other, you know, agree to disagree and keep it moving. Nobody is sensitive, sort of say, got skin like an armadillo, as Coach Brian used to say. You know, we'll be okay. You know, we'll be just fine, man. But I think the road that I travel has helped. I actually had a job right after I retired. You know, I coached in Buffalo for a year. I was coaching when I was in my last year with the Jets, you know, same as a player, you know. So I worked as an analyst for the last 5 years. You know, I still have that job, you know. So there's some things you will see around, and me being here, being away, because that's just how the dynamics of the job is. For me, I mean, I have an 11-year-old. I've been coaching his team, his flag football team, and mentoring guys in the NFL, and should I just say on all levels, you know. So I've been working, man. We have to work, you know. As a youth, you know, you should work. You know, as a father, I understand that, and I know our coaches do, because we have coaches that have kids, understand that our kids need to see great examples. Our kids need to be putting in work, you know, as a youth, you know, because you're raising them to be young men and young women. That's what we have here. That's what we want here. Kids that, you know, are coming to become men and women in society, contribute to women and men into society. You know, we're here to transform lives. My life was transformed when I got here by a great coaching staff with Butch Davis, Andrew Swayze, Curtis Johnson, Chuck Pagano, Arquillo. I can name everybody, you know, and I give a lot of examples about that. Everybody talked about the 2001 national championship team, but no one talked about the coaches, Larry Coker, you know, being one of those guys, Randy Shannon. You know, these were men raising young men, you know, so, and that's what we hear. I was excited to be a part of that because I'm about that. I coached in the Under Armour All-American game. I coached in the NFLPA Bowl as a defensive coordinator. So coaching's in me. Make no mistake. I played football, but I'm a coach, you know, so I know what it looked like. You know, I'm excited about having this gig.
Yeah, plan to get involved in recruiting and trying to sell the vision?
I'm limited on what I can do. Like I said, I can't be on the field coaching. I am here to mentor and help these kids to better themselves with football and after football. That's what it's about. I'm here to assist Coach Manning in everything he needs. I'm his right hand. I'm Doc Holliday. So I'll be Huckleberry. It's whatever he needs, man. Whatever these coaches need. I'm here for them. Like I said, I love this game. I love this university, as I know they do. And for first timers who haven't been here, to pick my brain if that's the key, or we bringing in guys to talk to the guys about just what we did, in my years, because I can't speak for no other years, though I know, the older guys, Leon Searcy, Ray Lewis, Mike Irvin, guys like that, can't speak for those years, but I know when we were here, it was about team, and that's all it's about. It's not about individuals, because we won't win. And that's what you probably seen, like we've been so separated. That's what Manny's been talking about. When I came here, and when we came here in '97, we had to weed out a bunch of bad apples. When things are not going right, that's pretty much what's happening for the most part. And now we got to cover those wounds and get back to work, and that's where we at right now. We have a fresh start, as the coach just said up here. We're here to impact these kids, these young men, should I say. We're here to provide guidance to them, and we need them to understand that they have to be coachable. I've been on that side. A lot of these coaches have been on that side. We have to make sure that they understand that they have to be coachable. There's more after this, and that real world's something else, so there's a lot we could provide to them just other than football. There's a lot of stuff that, was provided to us. So it's bigger than football.
I'm gonna do a couple more questions.
Yeah, you got a chance to coach Avantae Williams at the All-American game. Can you kind of talk about your relationship with him and your first impression of him as a player and what you saw throughout that week?
Yeah, there's no relationship. I was his coach for a week. We had a lot of fun. Kid dislocated his finger, thought it was broken. He was screaming. And Reggie went over there, showed him his fingers, and he was just like, "Oh, snap!" So it was fun, man, working with him. I felt like the kid was athletic, definitely an athlete, definitely showed heart. But I also saw that he's young and need guidance and need help. With his technique and stuff like that. But definitely happy that he chose you to come here.
And obviously you had your own career keeping you busy, and how much have you been around the program since you left? We saw you at the game last year, obviously, but how much have you been, and what's different as you walk around the halls?
Man, this place is huge. It's like a maze now. I didn't know where this place here was at, the auditorium, but it's grown so much, man, since I've left, since we came in '97. The weight room is a lot bigger. It's more plush. These kids got a game room. They have their own area. That we didn't have. It was small, more intimate. And not as plush, not as fancy. So definitely gives you those chills when I walk through here. Knowing that we were part of the rebuilding of this building, and excited for these kids to have more resources than we did to achieve their own individual greatness as well as team greatness.
Hi, Ed.
Hey,
Good.
long time.
Yes, true. So, do you plan to be here every day? I know you talked a little bit about that, but during football season or?
No, I have
an
an
office here?
11-year-old son. I don't mean to cut you off. You
No,
can
it's
go ahead and finish it.
No, I just wanted to know your actual, will you actually be here, and where again do you live? Are you in?
I live at the airport, because I did have a job, as I said, but I have an 11-year-old. Coach called me and that was the first thing he says, like, I don't want you to stop doing the things that you do, but I would love for you to be around as much as possible. That hasn't been possible because of my son. He lives in Georgia. When he was born, I relocated to be close to my son. You know, it's about being a father, you know, and I know being in college, because of the coaches that I had, Curtis Johnson specifically was a father figure to me, you know, and we're father figures to these kids. That's why I said it's bigger than football, you know, so I won't be here 365, but when I'm not doing other things that I have to do, my priority is Miami.
And are you allowed to recruit in any way?
Yeah, over the phone. Over the phone, I can make calls. I'm not sure what else the NCAA is going to allow, because I had a foundation. I've been working with kids for 20 years, since I've been in the National Football League. You know, that's why I say I know kids. You know, I know young men. You know, I also respect my elders, and I'm coachable. You know, I also know we're all in a learning situation. You know, each one teach one. You know, and if we adapt that, if we understand, as Coach Harbaugh would say, iron sharpens iron. You know, if we understand that as a group of coaches, as a group, as a university, I know we do, because I know our mission statement. You know, and as players, if they understand that, we're gonna be all right. We're gonna get this thing right where we want it to be.
Thank you.
All right, this is the last one here. Okay, this is the last question before it's gonna take off.
Last two. She was like that.
Sports Media Network. I just want to touch base on what you talked about, how you said, you know, you're going to be mentoring after football. You know, after they come out of this, what's next? So I want to know what kind of mentorship are you giving these young men about that? Would it be business? Would it be, you know, what they can do as far as like sports wise?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much, man. You know, I'm still figuring out everything that we're doing. You know, I know there's a lot of things that we did, and we had guys, names I'd rather not mention, but just for where we at, Shapiro, like type people who come around this university and give us a bad rep and do things that put kids in position where, you know, it's about choices and consequences, but not everybody comes from lucrative, great financial background homes, and you put them in a situation what you think they're gonna do, you know, especially when everything the way it is in college football is a billion-dollar industry, these kids providing a lot and not making anything, you know, so, you know, I just think we need to be preparing them not only for football, but for life. You know, we have a lot of support for this university, a lot of Golden Canes that will and has done the right thing. You know, we used to have guys caddying at golf courses. You know, I worked across the street at Blockbuster, you know, when it was there. You know, and I know you can't believe it, but I did. I could tell you what the new releases were with it. But those were the best times, you know, because like I said, these parents are sending their kids to us to raise them, to take over for them on what they've already built. You know, every kid is not going to make it to the NFL. I can promise you that. But like my senior class, once we bought into what we were trying to get get our point across to all the players as leaders of this team, was that if we work together, all of us are going to have a chance at success. You remember our first year, 5 and 6. Second year, I believe it was like 8 and 3. We went to like the Gator Bowl, then the Mike Ryan PC Bowl. You know, we got better as we went, but the better we got, the more opportunity for these kids as a group, as a whole, was presented. 3 years, like 40-something draft picks or something like that. I mean, you look at the people who I was surrounded by, and I don't mean to say I, but, you know, we surrounded each other with such greatness. You know, Reggie Wayne is my roommate. He's just a finalist in the Hall of Fame. Santana Moss, who's doing great things and doing a lot of community service in Maryland. Delvin Brown, who's a sergeant. You know, these are my suite mates alone I'm just talking about. You know, I can name the Marquise Fitzgerald, those guys who are in Texas, Dallas, who's doing good. The Darryl Joneses, who's a preacher, you know, who always been a preacher. You know, he always held us accountable, but that was all of us doing that. You know what I'm saying? So that's what we have to get to. If we don't get there, you're going to see the same stuff that you've been seeing. You know, it's about those young men buying in as well. It's just coaches can only do so much. You know what I'm saying? We can only do so much. And I know these coaches are going to work hard. That's what they did. They was doing it last year, the years before that when I've been coming. I've been coming here. You know, when I come, coach be like, you'll speak to the recruits, no problem. You know, it was, you know, so it's like, you know, you're just being hired to do a little bit more, you know. When there's nothing any Kane wouldn't do for this university. That's why I was getting so many calls, because everybody is interested in trying to get over here, you know. But everybody's not a coach, you know. Everybody don't know football like that. It's one thing to talk about it, you know, when you watching it, but until you in the locker room, in the meetings, you don't know. You know, so I think we're in the right direction. I think Coach Rick laid a great foundation down, and Manny was here with that. You know, so I know he has the right mindset to do things. It's just a matter of, look, we got to block out the outside and deal with what you have inside. You know, some people on the outside know what they're talking about. No doubt about it. We take that into consideration. But at the same time, you're not here like these coaches 24/7, man. That's a tough job. I coach, I know how it is. You know what I'm saying? And if you don't work together, because I was on that side where coaches wasn't working together. We wasn't meeting together. You know, we'd go out to a bar together, but that's not it. It's about doing and having the right structure upstairs. You know, it takes organization. I was with a great organization in Baltimore. You know, I called Ozzie as soon as I got this job. You know, and he's like, I look forward to talking to you. So don't be surprised if you see me sitting next to Ozzie at practice in Baltimore. Because I want to know. You got to pick people brains, mentor brains who I've had mentors to get me to this stage. I don't make it here by mistake. You know, it was bigger than football. You see, so you have to surround yourself with the right people. That's what we're trying to get these kids to understand. There's the whole saying, show me your friends, I'll tell you who you are. You know, so if they're doing certain things off the field, we got to address that. You know, I hate the transfer portal, but, you know, it's a good and bad thing. But I can tell them parents now, I can tell those kids now, if you don't want to be here, don't come here. If you don't want to work hard, don't come here. If you don't want to compete, don't come here. Not while I'm around. Not while these coaches are around, because I know what I saw yesterday. You know, just standing out there watching. I know what we want, you know, and I'm going to get to learn more, because in life you're going to learn to the day you're gone. You're always learning. You know, you'll be a fool to say, I know it all. You know, that's what makes this so good, the diversity of the University of Miami. You got people from different walks of life, different areas, they experience so many different things. When you put that together, you can have a great thing if we come together.
Hey, and thanks for your time. I asked Manny a similar question, but curious your thoughts. How important is it for this program to kind of build a wall around the state of Florida, keep some of these in-state recruits at home, and more specifically, the guys in your own backyard in South Florida?
I mean, that's huge because, you know, it's powerful when you can play at home and you do things in your community and people know you. You know, your city tends to look out for you. And that's a cry out that I have for the city of Miami. Like, when you see these kids out, send them home. You You know, when I was out, me and Reggie at a bar, we see our young kids out, we sending them home, you know, but that's key to not try to get as many of Miami guys, as many as Florida athletes as we can, but there's also kids all across the country too, you know what I mean? And I always said you want kids to be successful, you want kids to go to college. Of course we want the best, but we want the ones that's gonna compete, come and have fun, and do the right things, you know? Who wanna make something of themselves? Who's not gonna turn away from competition or a coach yelling at you or a coach talking soft at you, you know? That's what you want. We didn't run from competition, our class, and a lot of other guys behind us. We was about that life. You come here, be about that life. Don't wanna leave. Bleed the orange and green and go through those ups and downs that life gives you, you know? No quitting. No quitting when you come here, because that's what it was about. Can't bend over, can't cross your legs, can't put your arms on your head. Stand up, be accountable. Because when it's all over, because it goes by like that, college, NFL, real world will hit you like a ton of bricks, you know? And a lot of you know it, because you grown now. You have to have your job, you have to pay your bills, you know? It's about, and that's what we're here to teach. We're here to teach these young men how to be men after this. There's life after this, you know? So put away those mischievous things that you would think is gonna help you now, taking the money and you put us in trouble, you get us in trouble. You know, the going out when you got plenty of time for that. Miami hasn't changed since I left. You know, they actually got probably more clubs and stuff going on, more distractions, you know, with the phones and everything. You know, so these kids need to listen even more so, but that's on us too as father figures, you know, and mothers out here to teach our kids to be, you know, better kids in society. You know, our mission here in Miami is to transform lives. You know, let's get to that.
Thank you very much,
If you watch him, man, hit the like button for it. That was a great area. You had some interesting things to say. Lashlee also has some interesting things to say about getting kids in space. And here's your quarterback, Mr. King.
All right, guys, we are going to go straight into questions for De'Ara King. So if you could please just wait for a microphone, raise your hand, and we'll get started.
Hey, Derek, welcome to Miami. Brandon Navarro. Curious as to how was it you picked Miami, the story behind it, and just me last year, what convinced you why Miami just put you?
Appreciate it, first of all. Miami, that's a great place. They have a great history behind the program, playing on a big level. A lot of guys here have athletically good talent, a lot of talent here. And just meeting Coach Lashlee, playing against him, he's an SC out there in Houston, seeing what kind of offense he ran. I think that I was a good fit for his offense. And ultimately, when I came with my visit, meeting the guys on the team, I felt like it was the right connection right away, so I just feel more comfortable here than anywhere else.
Hey, David Flores with South Florida Sunshine. What impressed you when you came over on campus, and what do you like about the offensive coordinator Red Lashlee, and also Coach Manny?
Yes, everything. I mean, it's Miami. But coming on campus, for me, it was more just trying to find the right fit for me as far as football. So coming on campus, getting to watch tape when the guys were already here on receivers O-line, and also playing with a great defense is a big deal to me. So just coming here, and like I said, I met Coach Lashlee before, and just getting to know him better, talking to him and watching the tape and his offense, what he can do with the offense. The up-tempo offense, I have experience in it. I played with Kendall Brothers in Houston, kind of similar offense. So I just thought it was the best fit for me ultimately. So that's why I decided to come here.
Just a quick follow-up. said earlier, the thing that he likes most about you is the fact that how hard you work when people aren't cheering for you. For instance, what kind of what you guys did in your workout yesterday. Can you talk about maybe about some of your goals, you know, for this season individually, and what really drives you and motivates you?
Yeah, I pride myself in working hard. If you look at all the good players in any sport, I always think that they're the hardest worker in their sport. So me personally, what drives me is my family. I have a pretty big family, a strong family behind me, and I love everybody to death in my family. So just coming here, I try to just work hard every single day, whether it be weight room, whether it be mat drills we had yesterday. When nobody's looking, nobody's watching, just try to do the right thing. I feel like people that do the right thing, it pays off for you.
Hey, Derek, talk a little bit about your evolution as a quarterback. You know, you started out as a skill athlete and kind of ended up at quarterback. Talk about, you know, how you adjusted to that and how you came to develop the skills that you have as a passer as well as a runner.
I've been playing quarterback my whole life. So I played receiver my freshman year in college and half of my sophomore year, so that was really the first time I ever played receiver. So just playing quarterback my whole life, I kind of think I got a feel to it, and just putting a lot of work in. I feel like the quarterback has to work extremely hard to be productive and be successful. So that's what I try to do every single day. I feel like quarterback is now second nature to me. I have a lot to work on, obviously. I feel like everybody does, but just trying to put the work in and get better.
Hey Derek, I'm Susan Miller-Degnan from the Miami Herald. Manny Diaz, you know, we asked him a lot about maturity issues. There was some cultural problems in the locker room. Obviously, the last quarterback left. How do you think you'll be a step up as far as, you know, maturity-wise, being a leader, also off the field when, you know, Ed Reed, I don't know if you heard Ed Reed, maybe players make some bad choices, and how much does it help that you're, you know, this is your last go-around? So just what role do you think you play in that regard?
Just playing college football for the last 4 years, I feel like I'm very experienced. And for me, it's straightforward. I want to win. I want to win as many games as possible. So I feel like everything that you can do right now as far as having fun, I mean, you still have to have fun. Football should be fun, but you got to focus on the task at hand right now. So for all of us in the locker room, I know today is to win games and to work as hard as we can. So for me, just like I said, playing college football for 4 years, my 5th year now. I experienced a lot of stuff, and I think I can take what I experienced in my past and bring it to this team and try to help us in any way possible.
Behavior-wise also, and being an example, you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course. I've been here 3 weeks now, 2.5 weeks, and I feel like all the guys are pretty good about stuff like that. But it's me leading by example. Just always trying to do the right things and just try to lead. I mean, that's what I'm here for.
Thanks.
Derek, I know you've barely been here, but just from what you've seen maybe a little bit already, what are your thoughts on the skill players that you'll be playing with here?
What I've seen, I've thrown the ball to most receivers and tight ends. They look really good. You have a lot of guys that have athletic ability, and guys that can make plays, guys that can like really run. A lot of fast guys here. So I'm just excited to put in work with them, trying to earn their respect throughout the spring and summer, all the way to the fall camp for the season. So that's what I'm trying to do.
A couple more questions for Derek.
Derek, Tim Reynolds from the Associated Press as well.
You know,
Like you said, you only been here 3 weeks. The fan base here has been rather impatient, waiting for things to get a lot better quickly. You had just a one shot. I guess how aware are you of what this fan base is hoping for from you? And do you take that as pressure in a good way, pressure in a bad way? Does expectation from the outside, does that affect you one way or another?
I'm very aware. Obviously, I know the history behind this program. I know where it's been. I know where the Coach Diaz and everybody trying to get it back to where it's been. So for me, like you said, I have 1 year left, and I'm here to win as many games as possible. My ultimate goal is to go 12-0 this year, and wherever it takes us, that's where it takes us. So I'm gonna do everything I can and do everything to help my teammates and everybody in the whole program try to reach back to the ultimate height of this program.
Last question for Derek.
You
said, I played here before, so experience in playing a high tempo offense, it allows guys just to go out there and play. Obviously, still, I think you can make the right reads and make the right decisions with the ball, but it allows a lot of freedom for guys to make plays. And for me, that's when I think I'm at my best. When I'm out there just reacting, playing, and having open confidence in my guys to make plays, taking a lot of shots, and also running the ball with my legs. So I feel like just playing an offense and what I've done in this offense, I think it can help me be successful here.
Great. Thank you very much, Gary.
Quarterback Darren King.
Alrighty, guys, we'll go into questions for defensive end Quincy Martel. Just raise your hand for the microphone.
What was the ultimate thing about Miami that kind of made you want to come here? Was the Derek King's decision having a factor in that?
Obviously, thank you for the question. Obviously, it's a great history to the program. I thought there was a lot of great guys in the program. It's a great culture here. And the defense is high intensity, high energy defense, similar to what we did at Temple. I just thought it'd be a great fit for me.
I guess you got a chance to meet some of your teammates. I'm married to Mark, I guess you had a chance to meet a lot of your teammates so far. You had a conversation with Greg Rousseau, and I know he's a competitive guy, and sort of like the guy defensive lines. Already talked about who's going to have the most sacks this year, and kind of a fun maybe banter between you guys already.
Well, I mean, obviously it helps to have somebody as talented as him, to be playing with somebody as talented as him. So I just look forward to the opportunity of learning from him. We can learn something from each other, and hopefully we can make each other better.
Hey, Quincy, Dave from Sunset. What do you like about Manny's defense, his coaching style, and just anything else you like about him personally when you came here, and et cetera?
I like the fact it's an aggressive defense, aggressive style defense, and there's a lot of time around. Very talented D-line. Like I said, I think that it could only make each one of us better. And I'm just excited. I'm looking forward to the opportunity to go out there and play these guys and display our talent.
You're gonna get a chance to play against your former team first game of the season. Was that something that maybe was it like more of a hesitation comparing because of that, or was that like more was it all factor of reason why you might get a chance to kind of play against your team? I'm sure there's no animosity there or anything, but it's a unique opportunity.
It definitely is a unique situation. I think for the opportunity I had, I wouldn't trade. I wouldn't do it. If I had to do it all over again, I'd do the same thing. Not a bad relationship at the school. I wish everybody there the best, but I'm a Miami Hurricane now, and I'm just trying to maximize this opportunity and do the best I can here.
I guess as a pass rusher, obviously you've had a lot of success already, but I'm wondering what parts of the game you want to try to focus on to improve here in your last year, and what is Coach Stroud and Coach Diaz talking about as far as how to do it?
Just being consistent. Consistency is a big thing. Being obviously still being dominant in the pass rush game while still being dominant in the run game, making plays in space. Just being an overall complete player and keeping consistency every day in and day out.
Hey Quincy, David Wilson from the Miami Herald. After the year you had last year, I'm sure you could have thought about going to the NFL. Probably would have gotten drafted. What kind of made you want to go this transfer route and come to a school like Miami and develop for this last season?
Well, I thought just being honest with myself, I thought I had a lot more development as a player, and I thought that this would be the right place to do it. I thought I could. It's a lot of good pieces. The defense is. I thought I was a great fit for the defense, so I think I'll be able to develop and become a better player being here. just come in ready to work, everybody here is talented, everybody here has a high work ethic, so just come in ready to work and, day in and day out, and let's make the best out of this opportunity.
Last question, too.
Have you seen Derek King in action?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
actually played against each other.
So what was that?
We played against each other.
Can you tell me your impressions?
One of the most dynamic players I ever played against. His ability to run the ball, second to none. While he can still run, he can still throw the ball. So he's really a dynamic player. I'm excited to play. I'm kind of happy that I don't have to play against him. And so I'm just excited. I think he'll do great things on the offensive side of the ball. On the defensive side, we're just trying to bring that same, do the same thing and keep the same intensity that we had in years past.
Thank you so much.
That's great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Quincy Roach, 10. We're gonna shut it down right here, man. But we got a lot more coming.